Principles of the Stoics. How to develop grit, build endurance, and an ironclad mind. Who were the Stoics? These were the ancient Greek philosophers that had wide-ranging viewpoints. Its founder was a man named Zeno, who after a shipwreck decided to change the course of his own life, and he studied ancient philosophers within his own city. He studied Socrates, and he kind of started Stoicism. Afterwards, three popular ones that came after him were Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, we had Epictetus, and Seneca. And Stoicism, basically at its core, is remaining at peace while accepting the things you cannot change, while focusing your energy towards your actions. It's not about denying or suppressing emotions. It's about utilizing them in an intelligent manner toward a worthy ideal. First principle here in developing grit is to know what you want. It's much easier to keep going if you actually know what you're going for. When you know what you really want, you'll do whatever it takes. Number two here is to learn to self-regulate. Things like tools, meditation, journaling, breathwork. The ability to stay grounded in the face of chaos is a skill that can be learned. We're always going to be faced with inevitable challenges. The question, how do we handle it? Because the way that we handle it is going to determine whether or not we keep going. This will help you stay focused on the goals in the long term. Next, we have a strategy. Having a strategy is very important. Having a clear path ahead. When things come up, don't make excuses, make adjustments. Stay the course and keep going. Next, we have number four, which is when things get hard, don't look for a way out, but look for a way in. When things get hard, most of us want to look for a way out. But I want you to do the opposite. Remember what it is that you want. Remember why you're doing this. And look for a creative solution to keep going. Where there is a will, there's 10,000 ways. Just because something that looks hard in the moment doesn't mean there's not a way. Be solution oriented here. Alright, pain is temporary, but on the other side is success. So don't rush the process, trust the process. Number five is learn to meditate. I think of meditation as brain training. Training your mind to be focused in a world of distractions. How valuable is that, honestly? Most of us are very distracted from our vision, distracted from our goals, our dreams. We don't even know who we are, honestly. Developing a sense of inner calm and peace is the first step. Having awareness. There's a lot of different types of meditation, but mindfulness is typically the most popular one, which is basically just observing your thoughts, your emotions. What is going on? What do we actually believe? Are these thoughts even our thoughts? And are these feelings even our feelings? Operating from a space of clarity is key. Number six here is be a lifelong learner. More books, podcasts, seminars, everything you go to. Developing your knowledge base to have more tools to accomplish what you want and be of service on a higher level. And the number one form of learning is your own experience. Like, we can have all these theories, but it's not until we apply it in our lives that becomes wisdom that we can actually teach to others. Next, we're going to get into endurance. And this is very important because it's not just about the mind, but it's about the body, because there's obviously a mind-body connection. And the stronger our nervous system, the stronger our bodies, the more endurance and resilience that we're going to have. So we're going to go over some hormetic stressors, which are basically short-term bouts of stress that make you more resilient in the long term after recovery. All these are going to carry over in all aspects of life, because when you become more resilient in one thing, that tends to carry over. So the first one here I'm going to go over is unconventional training. Unconventional training is the use of tools such as steel clubs, maces, kettlebells, hydrocore bags. All these are designed for asymmetrical training. Because when we go in the gym, we have a lot of linear movements, which are great, they have their place. But when you have an offset object, all your muscles have to adapt to it much more than you do in a linear position. Like, everything is working. And also in the real world, like, not everything is going to be linear. So it kind of trains for more functional, more real world training. Number two here is saunas or heat therapy. And saunas are very important for something called heat shock proteins. These are proteins in the body that activate so many different types of benefits, such as muscle protein synthesis, activates beta endorphins in the brain, and stimulates autophagy. Saunas have a ton of benefit overall for overall detoxification. Saunas have been used for thousands of years. They have a history going back to ancient Finland, where they used to have hot rocks that would pour hot water over to create steam. And there are two different types of saunas mainly. You got the infrared and ancient Finnish saunas. Both of them are very beneficial. The difference really is one works on biophotons or light, and that's infrared saunas, which basically works on heating the content of the sauna up, which is you, while the steam sauna heats up the air. So the steam saunas tend to get much hotter, but since the infrared saunas are heating the content up, you don't need as much of a high temperature. So they both have great benefits, but there are some differences. Number three here is cold therapy. Now, cold therapy has a long history as well. Hippocrates used this in his practice to help with a variety of ailments. It's been used by ancient warriors such as the Spartans. The monks have even used it for enlightenment and different type of ceremonies. But basically, this is a hormetic stressor that activates resilience in a whole type of ways. One of the main benefits here is something called brown fat, brown adipose tissue. Now, this is a type of fat that burns fat, all right? Brown adipose tissue is brown because it's so dense in mitochondria. And we don't have much of it. There's just very few places in our body that actually have it. And in order to get more of it, there are certain practices. In cold therapy is the number one thing you actually can do to increase that. It also activates cold shock proteins, which is kind of similar to heat shock protein, vagal nerve tone, circulation. Number 4 here is fasting. And fasting is important for a variety of reasons. Like most of us are eating way too much throughout the day. Like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. Like all we do is like eat. And the thing about that is like we have a process called autophagy. And this is the process of cellular cleanup. So basically cleaning up old dead cells, old debris, and replacing them with new healthy ones. And insulin stops this process. So if we're constantly eating throughout the day, this process is never really going to be fully activated. And it can screw up our metabolism as well. So I would just like start intermittent fasting, like 12 to 16 hours per day. And just start at 12. And maybe if you can't do 12, do 10. All right. And just increase your time. And this is another hormetic stressor as well, because your body adapts to it and you become more resilient. And before you know it, after you start intermittent fasting, it becomes very easy and you wouldn't not want to do. You also can do 24-hour fast. I personally do that, as well as a 5-day fast twice a year, sometimes longer. And about this, like, there are certain things you can consume that while you're fasting that kind of increases the benefits. Like, when it comes to calories, you really don't want to do much of that, because that can stop a lot of benefits. But things like coffee, green tea, essential amino acids, these things can actually help enhance the fast by increasing the processes, synergy, and help save off muscle loss as well. The thing about fasting is that it's actually muscle protective because it increases HGH, or human growth hormone. That's very protective to muscle. And the thing about the refeed afterwards is that, because there's kind of like a dip in energy, dip in hormones and all that during fast, but afterwards it kind of skyrockets to more than it was before. It's a great reset. Number 5 is sunlight. Sunlight radiation is another hormetic stressor. And we know this, like in the summer we adapt to the sunlight. And we may not be able to do it as much, not just in terms of like the skin pigmentation, but in terms of like our total overall energy when it comes to that. Like it gets easier and easier as you do it. Sunlight is not something to be afraid of. All right, this is the thing that gives life to our planet. A lot of the harm that comes from the sun is from people who rarely spend any time in the sun at all and then go out for a long period of time. But if you just ratchet up your exposure gradually, like it's a very healthy thing to do. You need sunlight. Also, like the benefits of the circadian rhythm. Like the number one cue for our hormonal clock is sunlight. So getting that as much as you can, even if it's an overcast day, like even on an overcast day, it's gonna be so much more bright outside than it is inside. So it's getting your eyes, which have 70% of photoreceptors, getting that in the sunlight, getting out in the light, it's gonna be very beneficial, because it's not just about vitamin D. There's countless hormones, neurotransmitters that are affected by the light. And by the way, how we create vitamin D in the first place is sunlight, or UVB light specifically, interacts with the cholesterol in our skin. That kickstarts the process of vitamin D. So going back to cholesterol, that's not a bad thing. Like it's very important. We wouldn't be able to create our own vitamin D without it. Another thing is that glass blocks UVB light, so you're not going to be getting the vitamin D through the glass. The next section here is how to develop an iron-clad mind. What is this in the first place? It's essentially being bulletproof in a sense to all to the negativity, distractions, and being able to stay free in the face of adversity. First up here is to stand for freedom. Freedom is inherent in all things. It is our birthright. Without it, we really do not have anything. Freedom in this sense, let's think about physical, mental, emotional freedom. Like, what that would look like emotionally is being emotionally free. So doing the work that it takes to be emotionally free. If you have past traumas, if you have current patterns that you're stuck in, like what is the work you need to do to become free in that, to overcome and go beyond that? And think about that in all areas of life. Like what does freedom actually look like? Free of hindrances, being able to endure, becoming the greatest version of you. That's what this is really about. Like we're not meant to be average. Greatness is in us. All we have to do is activate that. Standing for freedom is to stand for what is real, getting to the truth of the situation, not just living a life that is subpar to our own potential, going all in and all out. Because when you have an anchor for things, like with success, you're going to need that, because there's going to be so many distractions, so many impedances. And if you do not know your why, you will not make it. Staying grounded in who you are and where you're going. Next thing here is principles over feelings. Now, this is a principle of not just letting our lives being dictated about how we feel. All right? Because emotions are important. Like, those are it's kind of feedback and kind of directions. But when it comes to feelings, like, we're not always going to feel like we want to do the thing that we're going to do. Like, it doesn't always feel good to engage in habits that are beneficial for us. Like, we may have a lot of things going on. Now, of course, listen to your body, but at the same time, like, you have to be guided by principles. Principles will keep you on the path. It'll keep you moving forward. But the thing about feelings is that if we just live by them, they're going to be pulled back to our old self all of the time because we live by our past familiar feelings. Take health, for example. Like, if you just don't feel like being on a nutritionally healthy diet, you just take action on that, then you'll never have the results that you want to reach. You must be willing to sacrifice who you are for what you could become. And feelings are temporary as well. Don't make a long-term decision on a temporary emotion. Another thing is understand where your feelings are coming from in the first place. We may have like these anchored rooted in the past. So getting to the root of it may also help it disappear as well. Lastly, we have no fear. K-N-O-W. Not having no fear, but it's about understanding fear itself, having a relationship with it. First of all, courage cannot exist in the absence of fear. It's about having the fear and doing it anyway. Understanding fear comes down to understanding ourselves, understanding our tendencies, our habits, our proclivities, all these types of things. Because when we have a better understanding of ourselves, we're going to have much more courage because we tend to fear what we don't understand. The more knowledge we have about something, the more likely we are to be able to take action. But make sure not to over-prepare and procrastinate because that just does the opposite effect. Speed is key. Take action. Because a lot of things I notice as well is that when we are immobile, we're just kind of paralyzed by fear, so to speak. Like, inaction breeds anxiety. If you just stay in motion, stay focused, just keep taking generative actions, like, you're going to get out of the place that you're in and get to a better one for sure. Look, every thought that we think creates correlating chemistry within our bodies. Science called psychoneuroimmunology and psychoneuroendocrinology. Literally how our thoughts and emotions affect our nervous system and our endocrine system, which is actually connected by the hypothalamus in the brain. So it's thoughts of stress, fear, that's going to release a hormone called cortisol. But if we're feeling love, happiness, like it's going to be like serotonin, dopamine, things like that. So that's the power of our minds. Like, we can literally create chemistry in our own bodies. If we're in a hyper-aroused state, then our amygdala is going to be super activated, which actually closes the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, which is the more rational part of the brain. And so we're kind of in this emotional state that tends to run on fear rather than courage, reason, and momentum. So having a greater sense of awareness, being calm in the face of adversity, all these things will help unlock our powers to have courage, understand that we are the one. Like, everything that we want, we can have it. There's no limitation here. Only limitation resides within ourselves. So what depth are you willing to reach? How far are you willing to go? Become the greatest version of you every day. Wake up, make progress. Understand you're going to fail, and that's okay, because victory is imminent anyways. Courage is a habit and a muscle that can be built over time to live our own best lives.